coasting. Remember when I used to be the brokest, I was hopeless. And going through it, they'll never notice, now I'm focused. Won't stop until my pockets on the swollers, had to show it. The deepest in that freezer, I'm the coldest, what you saying? My mama know I'm G, but that was not part of the plan. Nobody.
Perfect, guys. So welcome back to the Mastermind Podcast. My name is Daniel, and this is
Edison, and our special guest,
Luis Montenegro.
All right.
There we go.
So we've known Luis for quite some time now. Actually, we met Luis in around late April, and we got to know this guy. You and I told him from the beginning that he had the potential to be a motivational speaker. I mean, just like basically when you hear this guy talk, he kind of he has a good way of like captivating the audience. Kind of setting the mood in terms of the overall ambiance in the room. So, Luis, tell them a little bit about yourself.
All right, well, my name is Luis Montenegro. I've had my rounds around different industries. Mostly I've been a speaker or a trainer. Lately I've been into hypnosis, so I've been doing a hypnosis practice online as well, helping people change unwanted behaviors, actions, even helping people with addiction, anxiety, pain management. I'm a father of two, got a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old girl, and I've been married for 15 years this year.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
You got some dogs too, right?
Yeah, I got 2 Yorkies and a cat.
Your anniversary was just recent, wasn't it?
No, it's funny. I posted a picture on Facebook, and it was like a collage of basically 15 years of us being together, and I just posted that up, and everybody thought it was the anniversary, but the anniversary is actually November 1st.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, so happy early anniversary on that.
So, Luis, you kind of touched on something that I kind of want to go over. You said something about anxiety over there, and you kind of help people, that are struggling with anxiety. What are some things that you kind of tell them to overcome those fears and those depression?
Yeah, so there's a lot to say about learning a little bit of neuroscience. Neuroscience, if you can learn a little bit of neuroscience, it takes you a long way when it comes to anxiety and handling your own emotional behavior. And I'll give you an example of how. Your brain is composed of 3 different areas, okay? If you keep it simple. I know that there's more sections and areas of the brain, but when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to unwanted behaviors, there's really 3 that you need to know about. One is the reptilian part of your brain. Okay, this is, there's a little gland that's the size of a walnut. It's called the amygdala.
Okay.
Right.
And that.
I said right.
Exactly. Amygdala. And that gland, what it does is it's part of the center of your brain, right? So your brain, that reptilian part, it's basically the part that takes in information, sees if it's dangerous or not, and if it feels like it's dangerous, it's going to send that signal throughout your body. It'll make your hands sweat, it'll make you sweat, it'll raise your heartbeat, because it's basically prepping you to either freeze, fight, or flight, or run out of the situation. So that part of your brain, that's called the reptilian. You have a midbrain that kind of translates experience, but then you have the prefrontal cortex. That is that problem-solving area, that part of your brain, okay? How does that help you? If you understand what's going on with you physiologically, it's a lot easier for you to be able to manage your anxiety. And I'll give you an example. When you have a situation where you're in anxiety, you know that you're in that reptilian part of your brain. What you need to do now is move your experience into that prefrontal cortex, which is that labeling, that reasoning part of your brain. And there's been different techniques and different ways you can do that, but one way is by labeling your emotions, labeling what you're feeling, what's happening to you in the present moment.
So in a way, kind of like make yourself aware that you're in the situation that it's happening. Like, for example, like if you get angry, you kind of correlate that feeling that you had in that moment to anger. So next time it happens, it's coming back up, right?
Yeah, so like I'm angry right now, or I'm feeling this right now, okay? I'm feeling this because this happened, right? You're labeling the experience as it's happening. By doing that, you're moving that processing now to the front part of your brain, okay? And that's only one aspect. There's another part of neuroscience, which is called, basically, it's long-term potentiation, right?
Okay.
brain, it creates patterns, right? Neurons fire together, they create patterns in your brain. And neurons that fire together, they wire together. So the idea is, if you can find the trigger, the thing, this is what I help people out in hypnosis, if you can find that trigger, that thing that triggers the anxiety, or the situation that triggers the anger, or the situation that triggers the procrastination, right? If you can find that trigger and pinpoint it, and dissociate from it, and associate into a resource state and collapse the two, now you're rewiring your brain. And that's called self-directed neuroplasticity. And that's something we can definitely go into, but I could show you a technique that would actually help you if you're having a panic attack to basically dissipate any kind of panic attack.
Oh, that's awesome.
Want to see that? I can show that to you.
We would love it, yeah.
Okay.
You can't just tease us.
Got it. So let's say you're having a panic attack. Okay, let's say you're starting to feel anxiety. What you can do, and this is called bilateral stimulation. Now, this technique, it looks super simple, and you know what? It is. And sometimes the most profound things that you experience in life, or the things that can be the most helpful, are the simplest solutions, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So let's say you're having anxiety, take a water bottle. What you're going to do here is you're going to move that water bottle from one hand to the other, but you're going to cross the midline of your body, right?
Okay.
And as you're doing that, you're just breathing, right? And if you're at home right now, and you're a person that panics, you feel anxiety, try this out. You can do this with me. Breathe and move that water bottle from one hand to the other. Now, the reason this works, okay, is because you're stimulating both hemispheres of the brain.
The left side and the right side.
Anxiety, or you're having panic, your neurons are firing off in one section in a cluster. So by doing this, by stimulating both hemispheres of the brain, you're actually not allowing that pattern to take place. It's interrupting it. Immediately you'll start to feel relaxed and calm.
Okay. That's neat. Thank you for
I've actually I didn't know that. I used to suffer from very bad like panic attacks and whatnot, and they were just awful. Like they kind of just started up out of nowhere, and I wish I would have known that back then, so that way I would be able to stop it before it got worse or before it continued on. So that's definitely some interesting thing, and I bet a lot of people don't even realize that too. It's so simple, yet not a lot of people think about doing things like that.
Of course. And some people, I mean, I ran into a couple people, and actually myself, when I was going through anxiety, a lot of the time, I didn't even know a lot of the pain I was feeling in my chest was actually anxiety attacks. What would be a couple of things that you would suggest that would help with the random anxiety attacks, not just the, overwhelmed with all the stress anxiety?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, though. Anxiety, it comes on randomly, right? It's spur of the moment. Like my dogs are having anxiety right now. It's a spur of the moment thing. So you got to find those triggers. You have to put a roadblock, right? So here's what happens. Your brain right now, you'll typically get anxiety in certain situations, right? Like there's typically a pattern to your anxiety. It seems to happen spontaneously, but if you were to kind of focus in on a time that it actually specifically happened, you'll notice that it's because your brain is going down a certain road, it's going down a certain pattern. The idea is you use stuff like bilateral stimulation as a roadblock, right? Mm-hmm. It's the roadblock that you put down that path, and now you can actually rewire your brain to take a different path. So when you start to feel the anxiety bubble up, and if you don't have a water bottle, it doesn't matter. You can just do this with your hands.
Okay.
Right? Across the midline of your body. Or you can do something called tapping. Actually, do this with me real quick. While you guys are sitting there, I can't really see you on Zoom call, but just go ahead. I want you right now, Daniel.
Okay.
Do me a favor. I want you to close your eyes.
All right.
And try to bring up that anxiety feeling.
All right, it's here.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you on that?
7.
7? Can you just move it to an 8?
All right, sir.
Okay. Do me a favor now. I want you with your eyes closed, or actually open your eyes and look at me. I want you to tap the top of your head.
Okay.
Tap right above the eye.
Okay.
On the side of the eye. underneath the eye. Now tap your chest,
Okay.
grab your wrist, breathe in and out, and notice what's different.
My pulse is going down.
Pulse has gone down. Honestly, 10 words of anxiety.
Like 4, 3, almost gone. I don't even feel it anymore.
Almost gone. Let me tell you something. That technique, that works almost the same reason why the bilateral stimulation works. Is because you're not allowing your mind or your body to be able to concentrate on that one area. You're dissipating it throughout your entire body.
Yeah, and I noticed something too that I don't think Daniel noticed. Well, I'm sure you haven't noticed it, but another thing is when he was in a peak state of anxiety, or at an 8 for honest, I'll call it a Richter scale for anxiety. His shoulder tensed up. His shoulder kind of became in a raised position where it was tense. After he did that exercise, I noticed his shoulders dropped, which usually signals that you're going from being tense to being relaxed. Mm-hmm. So that was the number one thing I was looking at the whole time, and was identifying those little body language movements that determines whether or not your anxiety is at a peak state versus when you're in a relaxed state. So that I definitely noticed that too.
Yeah, one thing I noticed as well was with the breathing, how much the breathing, once you told me to take those deep breaths in, how much that relaxed me. Like I felt like my body got like all the air, everything it needed just to, relax, breathe, and stay calm.
Yeah, I think too, what you were saying, Edison, when you were analyzing his body language, what we call that in practice is calibration. You're calibrating their body language, right? So you can see the person's tense all the way down to them relaxing and how their breathing changes, right? I think what's really important is to understand that breathing, and this brings up a good point. There's two things we're going to touch on. Breathing changes your physiology, and your physiology changes your state, right?
Okay.
If you're breathing fast, your physiology is starting to tense up, and what's your state? You're in a state of anxiety, okay? Mm-hmm. But if you can change somebody's breathing, slow down their breathing, change their physiology, take somebody out of that physical state that they're in, and then you'll change their emotional state. So, you can do stuff like, that's why Tony Robbins, before he goes out on stage, what does he do? He takes those empowering breaths, fills up his chest. He walks with power behind the stage, and just walking, because how does somebody confident walk? How does somebody empower? How are they breathing? How are they walking? Just by changing your breathing, your physiology, you can change your state. That's another way to take yourself out of an anxiety state and into a resourceful state.
100%. I completely agree with that. And yeah, great example. Tony Robbins does do those like heavy breathing right before stage. I think he even jumps on a trampoline just to get his energy up.
Blood flowing, get the heart rate up. 100%. And it's what he's doing is he's creating that momentum before he gets up on the stage. And like you said, it exerts a level of confidence that is not only felt by himself externally or internally, mm-hmm. but is also seen and felt externally to anybody that's in the audience.
Yeah, and you feel that type of energy when someone walks into like the room and it's like a big boss. You're kind of like, who the hell is this guy? He's got his chest up, shoulders back. He's ready to go. Nothing's really stopping that guy when he walks in the room. And it's kind of goes hand in hand with another thing that I kind of want to talk about, which is mindset. You're kind of big on the whole mindset thing, especially with hypnosis and stuff like that. You kind of have to change the way people think, right? What are some things you do on the mindset category?
Yeah, I think all of that plays into it. One of the things, I don't know if you caught it, but remember when I asked you to rate the anxiety?
Yes.
And remember I told you to turn it up one notch?
Yes.
Everything in the communication has a purpose. The reason I did that is because if I would have told you to take it down a notch, when somebody's having anxiety, if you were to tell them to rate it and take it down a notch, they're instinctually going to be like, well, I can't. If I could just turn it off, I would have just turned it off already. But if you told them to turn it up a notch, for some reason they'll do it, right? Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, by doing that, the reason I tell you to turn it up a notch is because now it's basically an unconscious way of letting you know that you actually can control it. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. I see it. So it's kind of if you can bring it up a notch, you also have the ability to bring it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So it's all, like you said, in a way, it's mindset. So you think when these anxiety attacks or like traumatic events, do you think it's because it's labeled traumatic, or is because it actually is traumatic? You know, a lot of people put labels on things saying, oh, it's bad or it's this, and they kind of live their whole life without changing that, you know, obstacle that they just created or label that they just created. Would you agree on that?
Well, that brings me to the next point that I was going to make when you asked me about the mindset.
Okay.
So there's something in quantum physics called the quantum Zeno effect. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this, but this is what it is. You know, they were researching in quantum physics, they were researching subatomic particles, right? And they were noticing that when they were being observed, they would stabilize. Have you guys heard of that study?
No, I haven't.
I have.
He did. Okay, cool. Sorry, it's a little bit of lag. With the quantum Zeno effect, I mean, if I look at you and I understand, right, everything is made up of these subatomic particles, right? So when you observe something or you observe anything in space and time, it stabilizes. It's the same thing with your thoughts. Anything that you observe, anything that you study that you want to measure, it's going to stabilize it. So when you say this is a traumatic experience, this is that, I have this, I have that, your mind is solely focused on these things, you're stabilizing and you're rooting that problem in your life. That's the quantum Zeno effect applied to psychology, applied to your own psychology. So anytime I tell myself that same story, every time I repeat that story over and over and over again, all I'm doing is engraving that pattern, engraving that story, that problem into my brain, into my unconscious mind. So you're stabilizing it. You're becoming an observer of it. How do you prevent that from happening? You want to change your mindset, you have to change your focus. That's the only way. You're never going to be able to change your mindset if you're focused on that same story you've been telling yourself over and over and over again. Change your focus, change your mindset. Take yourself out of the situation you're in and put yourself in that new situation.
Okay. And do you think like a way to do that would kind of be changing the way you say it? Like instead of saying like, you know, I have to go to work, you got to say I get to go to work in a way like that?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
So it's the same thing in every aspect, and not just with, you know, a business, job, or anything. It's kind of the I can get it done. Like no obstacles, nothing in the way of you.
Yeah.
Okay, not bad.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, it's it goes hand in hand with this. I mean, it's kind of putting it like that. What you associate, you feel. So, for example, if you associate yourself with somebody who's constantly pissed off, and you're just like, oh, I'm just an angry person, psychologically, your brain is going to do everything in its ability to maintain that image because it's an association. You're telling people, this is who I am, this is what I am, and this is why I am this way. You're giving yourself a reason. You're telling yourself you're a certain way. So you're going to do anything in your ability to become and maintain that image. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're speaking your identity.
Exactly.
And what do you think? I mean, there's other aspects to this, because a lot of people say, you know, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So do you think the people you surround yourself and all that stuff, that kind of has a huge impact on who you become as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, if you're staying in the same environment, you're going to get the same results. I mean, that's just hands down. That's 101. So you have to change your environment if you want to have a different result. You have to change. It's right back again to what we were talking about before. You know, it's the way you breathe, the way you carry yourself, the places you put yourself. That's going to be the outcome that you're going to get, no matter what. So if you're hanging around with the same people that are doing the same things, there's going to be entrainment there, right? You know, if you took two grandfather clocks, you put one on this side of the wall, you put one on this side of the wall, you know, at some point, those pendulums are going to start to swing in the same timing. It's called entrainment. It's just how the world works. You know, I'm not going to get graphic, but women, if you've heard about this, if you ever lived with women a lot of times, when they're in the same environment with each other, they'll start to menstruate on the same cycle. Okay?
Wow.
There's no difference is entrainment. You will start to vibrate on the same levels that somebody else does that you're hanging out with. So you need to get with people that are above you, because they're at this other level that your mind, your physiology, everything, you're gonna have entrainment with those people that are successful. So you want to move yourself into those situations, into those places where, that's why you should go to conferences. You should go to these places where there's people that are successful, that are making moves, that are making money. Put yourselves in those environments, and then you'll have entrainment with them. You'll start to think like them. You'll start to do the things that they did to get where they are.
No, 100%
Right.
facts.
That's exactly that's an amazing point you bring up too, and that's something that I try to preach a lot of as well. And it's just like, who you associate yourself with is who you become. Just like the saying that goes, "How you do anything is how you do everything." You know, it's a lot of psychological warfare, not only with yourself but with those that are around you as well. Because I say it like this: not everybody, cares or puts your best interests at hand. Not everybody wants to see you thrive. Not everyone wants to see you become successful as well. But when you find that group of people, you find that association that it's just maybe even they're above you. What I say is I like to associate myself with people that are doing better than me. Mm-hmm. Reason being is that only gives me room for growth. When you're with people that are doing worse than you, it's not long before you become part of that group. And it's like you said, it's basically entrainment, because you're with a group of people that are doing worse than you and have no ambition and drive, yet you're the only one in that group that has that ambition and drive. You don't think that within the next couple months or a year, you're going to become a victim of that group? Of course. Not only are you going to become a victim, you're going to become a full-fledged volunteer of that group, because you decided to associate yourself with people that had no ambition, no drive, yet you had everything going for you at the time being. So you fell victim to the way their lifestyle is, because at the end of the day, the odds are outweighing you. I mean, at the end of the day, you're handicapped. It's 3-1. 3 of your friends have no ambition, no drive. They're basically lackluster at best, and you're the only one that has that drive and that ambition. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna fall victim to that black hole.
100%.
Yeah, and then like kind of going back, it's kind of tough sometimes too that, kind of be self-aware in what situation you are, even with your friends. Because sometimes, you grow up with these kids, and you think like you're not going to have any other friends if it wasn't for them. You're going to be by yourself, or you're going to be lonely. But sometimes it takes that pivot, that little self-awareness. Hey, like these guys are, no matter what I tell them, like my goals are, they're saying no. Like, oh, that's a stupid idea. Why are you even trying this? Oh, that's not going to work out. Yeah, because half the time it's because they can't do it. So you're limiting yourself on your beliefs because someone else is giving you advice that's never done it or is willing to do it and is not even going to put in the work for it.
Gave up on it too.
Exactly. The only way to lose is quitting. Yeah, and Lewis, another thing, bringing up the point of pivoting. You were kind of in a different industry a while back where you were very successful and making a lot of money, and you decided to pivot into a different industry. Talk about that. Let's talk about like kind of the risk management or risk mitigation that goes into a decision like that, being in a successful position and kind of, stepping away from it and trying something new.
Well, I think that when you realize that all of life is a risk, everything. You doing this podcast, that's a risk. You working where you're working right now, it's a risk. Everything in life is a risk. You're taking a chance. When you realize that, it becomes a little less scary. Everybody worries about, look, here's the thing. The grass is not always greener on the other side. I think everybody's heard that, and everybody's heard you have to water the grass where you're at.
Exactly.
But each and every one of us, we have this thing inside of us, this driving force, okay? This knowingness that you have one life, and you have one attempt to fulfill whatever purpose you have as a human being. And there's going to be risk in everything.
Right.
There's risk in your current situation. There'll be risk in the future situation. And the idea is this. The idea is you have to keep going, and you have to keep pursuing your full potential, whatever that is. And you can't, everything that you've done up to this point has been a step to getting to your full potential. Okay? The job that you're in right now, that's just one more step to getting to your full potential where you're meant to be. Okay? So when you start looking at it like that, a pivot is not so much of a pivot, but an evolution. Does that make sense?
Okay, more like growth.
It's growth, right? You're growing into that person that you're supposed to be. And sometimes it's like a reptile, right? What does a reptile do? A reptile, as it's growing, it sheds the skin and leaves it behind. So sometimes you grow into a position, and then there's times where you shed that skin and you're ready to grow into the next one. I also believe that, everywhere that you go, you should be an influencing part of the influence of that situation. So I got to meet great people like you. I got to meet great people like Daniel working with you guys, and that's a situation that I never would have been able to be in if I didn't pivot out of what I was doing before. So to be willing to grow and not be afraid of risk. Things work themselves out when you are the type of person that doesn't stop, right? You keep knocking on doors, you keep going, you're going to produce, you're going to make money because of who you are as a person. So don't let fear hold you back from becoming the next evolution of yourself.
That's awesome. That's definitely a great point you bring up too, because I know a lot of people struggle with that. I know a lot of people they fear taking risks because they think they're gonna lose it all. I mean, Daniel and I, and I'm sure you have as well, we've had experience making a lot of money and still not being happy. I mean, it's a matter of fulfillment too. You got to do what fulfills you. Usually, for most people, that's serving others as well. For some people, that's creating an impact and a legacy that their own, family line can fall back on as well and grow and prosper from. So, I definitely some great topics here as well, and I'm sure a lot of people will be able to learn and grow from this too. Now, I do see we are running out of time here as well. I don't know if there's anything you want to say, Lewis, before we wrap up here.
I would just say this, learn a little bit about your brain and how it works, and it's going to take you a long way. If you can realize what it is that your brain is doing on a daily basis, it's going to help you in every area of your life, whether it's your physical, your spiritual, your financial, whatever it is. Learn how your brain works so that you have more control over what's going on. You can take it, move it to a different direction. Don't let it just be an unconscious process that has control of you, but make it to where you can now steer this vessel that you've been given in life.
That's right.
That's awesome. Thank you so much again, Lewis.
And then, we definitely appreciate you coming on to this with us as well. And hopefully we can do another collaboration again where, we have you here in person too. We'll probably try to get a little bit closer to you too, so you don't have to take a little hike over here. But we definitely appreciate you coming on and definitely sharing some wisdom with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
No worries. Thank you. Bye-bye.